welcome back to part 3 of chapter 2. This episode is about painting the 5 Necron Immortals. Go back and check out the first 2 parts if you haven't seen them yet. So this is using a Runelord brass paint. You can see I'm a bit nervous here for some reason. My hands are a little bit shaky. Someone had given some advice to water the paints down more, so I'd given it a go trying to water it down, but I'm struggling to find a good balance. Sometimes it's too watery, it's like dripping. Other times, it's kind of, there's not enough on the brush. So it's all over the place, but I'm slowly getting a bit better. I found that with like the black primer that I did this time, versus chapter 1, where I used the white spray paint at the end for highlighting, that the blackness made it difficult for some of this. Like I had to go over it a couple of times just to make sure that you couldn't see that undercoat coming through. But all in all, I found that this scaled up a lot better than assembling did. So when I made the massive mistake assembling by getting all the weapons out and getting all the heads out and not realizing that they were all slightly different, I didn't really have that problem with painting. So with painting, I could just get one color and then apply that to all of the models and then start on the next color. And so this kind of was a lot easier. I could kind of break it over a couple of different days. And sometimes when I was painting maybe the second or the third model, I realized, I forgot to paint like the hands. So I could go back to the other 2 and just quickly fix them up, and then moving forward I'd remembered to do it. So I found that, definitely painting does scale. I think assembling doesn't scale as well. I think you just do it one at a time. Well, that's what I'm going to try next time. So then I moved on to the Leadbelcher paint color for the weapons. I think it actually asked for a slightly different color, but this was the closest one that I had. It also said to cover it with like a different wash, which I haven't done because I feel like it already kind of looks textured with the black undercoat anyway. I don't really think that the wash on the weapon is really going to add that much value to, but I guess I'll wait and see how the finished product comes together. Here I'm just kind of touching up any things that I've missed. But again, when you're doing it in scale, it's not so bad. You can kind of get through it really quickly. My cat is just trying to interrupt. So they said to paint the warrior's shoulder pads, but I only had Runefang steel, which was kind of the most silver color that I had, so I'm kind of hoping that that's not going to look too silly. I think I'm also meant to put like a white stripe down the head, which I haven't done yet. I'm also like applying a much thicker coat of this one because with the shoulder pads in the previous part I tried to use cement glue to glue them together so it looks a bit dodgy, so I'm using some thick paint to try and cover that up. That's why I'm applying a few different coats to the shoulder pads to kind of remove those blemishes. I'm also trying out a different camera angle here, which didn't work really well because you can't see what I'm doing. But I'm applying the Corax White to the weapon, so I didn't do that in chapter 1 when I just did my first Necron warrior, and the green just doesn't pop when it's off a black paint, so I was hoping here by doing a white undercoat will help the green stand out. I'm also painting the rocks white, so when I get around to the bases and I apply a wash to the base, I think that'll come out a nicer colour. I really struggled trying to get the white just into the kind of the nodules, I think, of the weapon. Like, I kept getting it over the black. I don't know how you're meant to kind of get it in there. And my hands were so shaky. That obviously doesn't help. I just kind of trying to get some highlights in there, so when the Tesseract green paint is applied in a second, that it'll really, stand out a lot better. Oh yeah, I also did some Abaddon Black just to try and clean up some of my crazy white paint that I had gotten everywhere due to my shaky hands. I think I may have overdone it though and went too far the other way. So yeah, now I'm applying the Tesseract Glow. It's kind of meant to give some sort of like shiny feel to it, but I didn't really get that from here. But here you can see kind of the end product. And here's another angle from outside. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it's shaping up so far. So while I was outside, I realized that the emblem on the chest was, not painted. And so in the original one that I had done, I just painted the whole section gold. But this, I saw a cool picture online, or maybe it was part of the box set. But yeah, just the chest, the sign itself painted, and then the back is left black. So I thought I'd give that a try. So the closest gold color I have is the Retributor Armour, and so I'm just using that, which is the same one I used in the first chapter. I had a go at it once and I failed miserably, so this is my second attempt. So what I ended up doing was not using any diluted paint, and then just having a little bit on the brush, not too much. Even here in this example, I actually still had too much on the brush, so a little bit of it transferred onto the background, which was not what I was kind of hoping for, but it wasn't bad enough that I felt like I needed to reset and try it again. My hand is getting a bit less shaky, so obviously I'm getting a little bit more comfortable and familiar with it. So yeah, here's one that I had kind of half botched, and I think by now there was less gold paint on there, or maybe it dried a little bit, so it was actually did pretty well on the second one. So I just repeated that for all 5 of them. But yeah, I just think it kind of makes it pop a little bit. The next thing left was the base. So I'm not really happy with my bases. I think it's probably the worst thing. But what I do is I use a little bit of black paint. I took quite a lot on that brush. And then using another clean brush, I get some white paint. And then I just kind of mix it together in my wet palette. But my ratio was completely off. I had way too much black to white. I think you probably need a 2-1 ratio just because the black is so strong. So I just kept mixing it through until I found kind of a grey that was passable. It still was too dark, but at this point I just got over it and I was like, I'm just going to use it anyway. And so yeah, then I just went one by one, just kind of painting the base. I wasn't really caring too much if I got a little bit on the rocks, obviously, because they're just part of the environment, and I was just trying to avoid the feet, but I wasn't too stressed about accidentally, hitting it, because they're kind of hard to see. I think I've been putting too much attention on these really small details, but really it's just the face of the model and the front that's gets 90% of the attention. So I think there's a lesson there in kind of learning. And then I had some grey paint left over, so I just painted the rims yet, but I'll need to go back later and tidy them up. So yeah, now I'm using a shade. So this is the first shade I'm using on these 5 Immortals here. I was big brain thinking, I'm just going to just use it directly from the bottle. I'm not going to water it down. But I think that was a bad idea because it just came out way too thick and too dark. My rocks as well that I had selected from the garden in part 1, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Some of them kind of worked out well and some didn't, so I think, selecting the right rock texture actually is a bit of an art. Like the ones at the front here I think are fine, but then the ones at the back I think were almost too smooth. Like it's kind of chipped off a bit of concrete or something, and it just, yeah, it doesn't really have that alien landscape look. I have the original model there on the right that you can see, which now I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's really not that good. But at least all of them will be consistent. And then, yeah, I realized that some people paint the top part of the skull. There's a little section in the forehead white. So I did that. I think it looked okay. It wasn't too weird. And then when I had the shade out already, I was like, oh, I'm just going to shade the brass sections of the warrior, because I'd seen some people do that. Again, I kind of regret this decision. I think they were probably fine as is. But everyone says just put a shade on it, it's going to make it look really good. So that's what I did. So yeah, I'm going to kind of call these done for now. So this is the final product. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know any tips or advice. I really appreciate everyone being super helpful and, really kind, blowing me away. The next models I'm going to do is probably a Scarab Swarm, just for something a little bit different. I'm kind of getting, a bit bored of these kind of warrior ones. But yeah, if I can get up to like a few more subscribers, I might try and do like an Overlord or something really challenging for myself. So yeah, definitely like and subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks for watching.